The gunshot pierced the dawn's silence as Olivia Lawson clutched her swollen belly and ran through the tall prairie grass, her breath coming in terrified gasps. Montana Territory, 1875, was no place for a woman alone, especially one 7 months with child and fleeing the man who'd promised to marry her before revealing his true, violent nature. "Keep running," she whispered to herself, the distant sound of hoofbeats driving her forward despite her exhaustion. "For the baby." The rising sun painted the vast landscape gold, illuminating the small frontier town of Redemption Creek ahead. Olivia had heard whispers of this place, a new settlement where people came to start fresh. That's what she needed more than anything now. Her auburn hair tumbled loose from its pins as she staggered toward the town's main street, her once fine blue dress torn and muddy. Heads turned as she passed women gathering their children closer, men narrowing their eyes. Olivia knew what they saw: an unmarried woman heavy with child, a disgrace. She collapsed on the steps of the general store, her strength finally giving out. Through blurry vision, she saw dusty boots approaching. "Miss, you need help." The voice was deep, concerned. Olivia looked up into the weathered face of a tall man with sun-bleached hair beneath a wide-brimmed hat. His eyes were the clear blue of a summer sky, but it was the kindness in them that made her weep. "Please," was all she could manage before darkness claimed her. Clayton Forrester had been restocking supplies when the commotion drew him outside. At 32, he'd seen much in his years, first as a Union soldier, then as a ranch hand, and now as the owner of his own modest spread outside town. But the sight of the pregnant woman collapsing stopped him cold. "Stand back," he ordered the growing crowd as he knelt beside her. "She needs air." "She's in the family way and no husband to speak of," whispered Martha Higgins, the minister's wife. "Shameful business." Clayton ignored her. "Someone fetch Doc Miller." He gathered the unconscious woman in his arms, her body feeling too light despite her condition. Without hesitation, he carried her to the doctor's small clinic at the end of the street, aware of the stares and whispers following them. Doc Miller was a grizzled man of 60 who treated everything from gunshot wounds to typhoid. He directed Clayton to place Olivia on the examination table. "Exhaustion, dehydration," the doctor muttered after a quick examination, "and frightened half to death by the looks of it." "Who is she?" "Don't know," Clayton said, removing his hat, "but someone's after her. She came running into town like the devil himself was on her heels." The woman stirred, her eyes fluttering open in panic. "Easy now," Clayton said softly. "You're safe here. He'll find me," she whispered, clutching her belly protectively. "Jasper will find me." "Who's Jasper?" Doc Miller asked, offering her water. "The man who—" She paused, shame coloring her pale cheeks. "The father. He promised to marry me, but when I told him about the baby, he changed, became cruel." Her voice dropped. "Said no child of his would be born to a woman like me. He tried to." Her hand trembled over her stomach. Clayton's jaw tightened. He'd seen men like Jasper before, men who treated women and promises as disposable. "You're in Redemption Creek now," he said firmly. "What's your name?" "Olivia Lawson." "Well, Miss Lawson, I'm Clayton Forrester. That's Doc Miller. No one's going to hurt you or your child here." Doc Miller nodded. "You need rest, proper food. The baby seems healthy, but you're running yourself into the ground." "I have nowhere to go," Olivia admitted, tears welling. "I spent my last dollar on the stagecoach to get this far." Clayton exchanged glances with the doctor, making a decision that would change 3 lives forever. "I have a place," he said. "My ranch is small, but there's a spare room. My housekeeper, Mrs. Burnett, could use help with the cooking and such. It's honest work if you're willing." Olivia stared at him, searching for deceit or ulterior motives in his face. Finding none, she asked, "Why would you help me? You don't know me." Clayton's eyes softened. "Madam, I believe everyone deserves a second chance. I got mine after the war. Seems only fair to pass that on." For the first time in months, Olivia felt something beyond fear, a flicker of hope. "I'd be much obliged, Mr. Forrester," she said softly, "and I'm a hard worker. You won't regret it." Clayton nodded, settling his hat back on his head. "That's settled then. Rest here today. I'll come fetch you tomorrow with the wagon." As he left the doctor's office, he heard the whispers already starting. "Taking in a fallen woman. Martha Higgins tusked to the blacksmith's wife. That Forrester's lost his mind. Clayton walked past without comment, his mind on the spare room he'd need to prepare. He wasn't sure why he'd made such an impulsive offer, except that something in Olivia Lawson's eyes' determination, mixed with fear, reminded him of himself years ago. Sometimes, he reflected, leading a good life meant swimming against the current of other people's expectations. The following day, Olivia settled nervously into the wagon beside Clayton. The ride to his ranch was mostly silent, with Olivia taking in the vast expanse of prairie and rolling hills. "It's beautiful," she said softly. "So open," Clayton nodded. "That's what drew me here after the war. No walls, no fences holding me in, just sky." As they approached the ranch, Olivia saw a modest but well-built house, a sturdy barn, and corrals containing several horses. It wasn't grand, but it was solid, built to last. "It's not much," Clayton said, misinterpreting her silence, "but it's paid for." "It's wonderful," she replied honestly, "to have something that's truly yours, Mrs. Burnett." Proved to be a no-nonsense woman in her 50s, with streaks of gray in her dark hair. Her initial skepticism at Olivia's presence melted somewhat when she saw how exhausted the younger woman was. "I'll show you to your room," she said. "You can rest today, but tomorrow we start proper." "I run a tight kitchen." "Yes, madam," Olivia agreed quickly. "I'm grateful for the opportunity." The room was small but clean, with a narrow bed, a washstand, and a window overlooking the eastern hills. For Olivia, who had spent recent weeks sleeping in stables and on stagecoaches, it was paradise. Later that evening, after a simple but hearty dinner during which Mrs. Burnett carried most of the conversation, Olivia found Clayton on the porch, smoking a pipe and watching the sunset. "Mr. Forrester," she said hesitantly, "I wanted to thank you properly. Not many would do what you've done." Clayton tamped down his pipe. "It's nothing extraordinary, Miss Lawson, just common decency." "It's extraordinary to me," she insisted. "But I need you to know I'm not what people will call me." "What happened?" She swallowed hard. "I believe Jasper loved me. My parents died last year and I was teaching at a small school in Ohio. He was passing through, charming, full of stories about the West. He promised marriage, a home. By the time I realized his true nature, it was too late." Clayton studied her for a moment. "Miss Lawson, I don't hold with judging folks on rumors or appearances. Actions tell me more about a person than words ever could." Olivia's shoulders relaxed slightly. "Then I hope my actions here will speak well of me." "I'm sure they will," he replied. "Now get some rest. That little one needs it." Over the following weeks, Olivia proved herself invaluable around the ranch. Despite her condition, she worked tirelessly helping Mrs. Burnett with meals, taking over the mending Clayton had neglected, and even keeping the ranch's simple accounts in order when she discovered Clayton's haphazard bookkeeping. "You were a teacher?" Clayton asked one evening, impressed by her neat figures. "For 3 years," she confirmed, a shadow crossing her face. "I loved it. The children, the books, watching minds open to new ideas. You miss it." It wasn't a question, but Olivia answered anyway. "Yes, but that life is gone now." Clayton watched her hands move methodically across the ledger. "Maybe not forever." As her time grew closer, Clayton insisted she reduce her workload, much to Mrs. Burnett's approval. "The girl works too hard," the housekeeper told Clayton privately. "Trying to prove something, I expect." "She doesn't need to prove anything," Clayton said firmly. "She's earned her place here." Mrs. Burnett gave him a shrewd look. "Getting attached, are we?" Clayton busied himself with his coffee. "Just being decent, Mrs. Burnett." Was all the older woman said, but her expression spoke volumes. The truth was, Clayton found himself increasingly drawn to Olivia. Her quiet strength, her intelligence, the gentle way she spoke of the future had awakened something in him he thought had died in the war. But he kept his distance, knowing her situation was precarious enough without his complicated feelings making things worse. Then came the night when everything changed. Clayton awakened to Mrs. Burnett pounding on his door. "It's Miss Lawson," she said urgently. "The baby's coming, and it's coming fast. I've sent the ranch hand for Doc Miller, but this little one isn't waiting." Clayton found Olivia pacing her room, face contorted in pain. "I'm sorry," she gasped. "It's too early, 2 weeks at least." "Babies come when they're ready, Mrs. Burnett said practically, laying out clean linens. Mr. Forrester, boil water, lots of it. What followed were the longest hours of Clayton's life. He paced the main room, flinching at each of Olivia's cries. When Doc Miller finally arrived, the first rays of dawn were breaking over the hills. "Let me through," the doctor said gruffly, pushing past Clayton with his bag. Another hour passed before Mrs. Burnett appeared in the doorway, her usually stern face softened with emotion. "She's asking for you," she told Clayton. "Both of them are doing fine." Clayton entered the room hesitantly. Olivia sat propped against pillows, her face exhausted but radiant, cradling a tiny bundle. "Come meet him," she said softly. "My son." Clayton approached, surprised by the emotion tightening his throat. The baby was impossibly small, with a shock of dark hair and skin still reddened from birth. "He's perfect," Clayton said, his voice rough. "I want to name him Benjamin," Olivia said. "It means son of my right hand, because he'll be my strength." "Benjamin," Clayton repeated. "It's a fine name." "Strong," Olivia met his gaze. "Thank you for giving us a safe place for him to enter this world." Something shifted between them in that moment, a connection, an understanding, a possibility. But before Clayton could respond, Doc Miller pulled him aside. "She needs rest," he said. "And there's something else you should know. I stopped in town before riding out here. There's been a man asking about a pregnant woman matching Miss Lawson's description. Calls himself Jasper Reed." Clayton's jaw tightened. "When?" "Yesterday." Sheriff Thompson told him he hadn't seen anyone like that, but I don't know if he believed it. This Reed fellow has the look of trouble. After the doctor left, Clayton doubled the watch on the ranch, instructing his hands to alert him to any strangers approaching. He wasn't about to let anyone threaten Olivia or her child, not when they'd come so far. The news of Benjamin's birth spread quickly through Redemption Creek. While a few kind souls, like the shopkeeper's wife, brought small gifts for the baby, most of the town's reaction was less charitable. "Born in shame," Martha Higgins declared after church the following Sunday, loud enough for Clayton to hear as he passed. "That poor child will carry his mother's sin his whole life." Clayton stopped, turning to face the gossipmonger directly. "That child was born under my roof, Mrs. Higgins, and there's no shame in that, only blessing." His public defense of Olivia and Benjamin sent a clear message through Redemption Creek. Clayton Forrester had claimed them as his responsibility, and in a frontier town, that counted for something. Meanwhile, on the ranch, a new routine established itself around Benjamin's needs. Clayton found himself lingering in the house more, watching in wonder as the tiny boy grew stronger each day. Olivia blossomed in motherhood, her natural grace extending to this new role. One evening, Clayton returned from checking the herd to find Olivia on the porch, rocking Benjamin and singing softly. The sight stopped him in his tracks, this makeshift family that had somehow formed on his ranch. "He finally settled?" Clayton asked, keeping his voice low. Olivia nodded. "He's a good baby, hardly fusses except when he's hungry." Clayton sat in the chair beside her, watching the stars appear one by one. "I've been thinking," he said carefully, "about the future." Olivia tensed slightly. "I know we can't stay forever. Once Benjamin is a bit older, I can find work in another town." "That's not what I meant," Clayton interrupted. "I was thinking you both should stay, permanently." Olivia's rocking slowed. "As your housekeeper." "No," Clayton turned to face her directly. "Olivia, I'm not a man of fancy words. But these past months, having you here, it's changed things. Changed me." "Clayton, let me finish," he said gently. "I know this isn't romantic like in those novels. I'm offering a partnership, a family for Benjamin, for you if you want it. I care for you both more than I thought possible." Olivia stared at him, stunned. "You're proposing marriage?" "I am," he confirmed, suddenly uncertain. "But I understand if you need time or if you don't feel." "Yes," she whispered, tears filling her eyes. "Yes, I'll marry you." Clayton's heart leaped, but caution tempered his joy. "Are you certain?" "I don't want gratitude, Olivia. I want a wife who chooses me freely." Olivia shifted Benjamin to one arm, reaching out to touch Clayton's weathered face with her free hand. "This isn't gratitude, it's admiration, respect, and yes, love. I've watched you these months, your integrity, your kindness. You gave us sanctuary when no one else would. You defended us. You've already become Benjamin's father in every way that matters." Clayton covered her hand with his own, turning to press a kiss to her palm. Then we'll make it official. Sunday next, if Reverend Higgins will have us. Olivia's smile faltered. Will he? The town will adjust, Clayton said firmly. And if Reverend Higgins refuses, we'll ride to the next county. I'm not ashamed of claiming you and Benjamin as mine. The next morning, Clayton rode into town alone, his mission clear. His first stop was the small church where he found Reverend Higgins in his study. I wish to marry Olivia Lawson, Clayton stated without preamble. Next Sunday, the Reverend's eyebrows rose. The unwed mother staying at your ranch, Clayton, have you considered what people will say? Taking in the woman was charitable, but marriage, I'm not asking about other people's opinions, Clayton interrupted. I'm asking if you'll perform the ceremony. Reverend Higgins sighed. The church is for everyone, even those seeking redemption. Yes, I'll marry you, Clayton nodded. Thank you. His next stop was the general store, where he selected a simple gold band. As the shopkeeper wrapped it, the bell above the door jingled and Sheriff Thompson entered. Forrester, the lawman acknowledged with a nod. Just the man I wanted to see. Problem? Clayton asked, pocketing the small package. Could be. That man I mentioned before Jasper Reed, he's back. Been asking more pointed questions. Says he's looking for his wife who ran off with their unborn child. Clayton's blood ran cold. Wife, that's his claim. Says they were married back east and she took off with their savings. Told quite the convincing tale. He's lying, Clayton said flatly. He threatened her and the baby. She fled for their lives. Sheriff Thompson studied him. I figured as much. Man has snake eyes, but he's staying at the hotel and I can't run him off without cause. I appreciate the warning, Clayton said, his mind already planning. When did he arrive? This morning. Mentioned he might ride out to surrounding ranches looking for work. Said he's good with horses. Clayton understood the implied message. I'll be ready if he shows up. On the ride back to the ranch, Clayton formulated his plan. He wouldn't let Jasper Reed anywhere near Olivia or Benjamin, but a direct confrontation might put them in more danger. The man would need to be handled carefully. Upon returning, Clayton found Olivia hanging laundry while Benjamin napped nearby in a basket. Her face lit up at his approach, then quickly clouded as she read his expression. What is it? She asked, wiping her hands on her apron. Clayton dismounted, leading her to the porch where they could speak privately. He told her about Jasper's return and his claims. Married, Olivia's face paled. That's absurd. He promised marriage many times but never followed through. When I realized I was with child, he became enraged, said I'd trapped him. I believe you, Clayton assured her. But Jasper's spinning tales in town. He'll likely show up here eventually. Tears filled Olivia's eyes. He's come to take Benjamin. Clayton, I can't lose my son. Clayton took her trembling hands in his. You won't, I promise you that, but we need to accelerate our plans. We'll marry tomorrow, not Sunday. Once you're my wife and Benjamin bears my name legally, Jasper's claims will hold less water. Olivia nodded, trusting him. Tomorrow, then. That evening, as they finalized their plans, the sound of an approaching horse drew their attention. Clayton signaled for Olivia to take Benjamin inside while he stepped onto the porch, hand resting casually near his holstered pistol. The rider who appeared was not Jasper Reed, but Sheriff Thompson. Evening, Forrester, the lawman called, dismounting. Thought you should know Reed was asking specific questions about your ranch today. Heard about the baby being born here. He'll come calling soon, I expect. Let him, Clayton said grimly. I'll be ready, the sheriff nodded. I figured as much, which is why I'm here unofficially, you understand. I can't stop a man from looking for his alleged wife, but I can tell you I'll be patrolling this area regularly over the next few days. Clayton appreciated the sheriff's discreet support. We're getting married tomorrow, Judge Wilson in town. Wise move, Thompson approved. I'll stand witness if you need one. After the sheriff departed, Clayton secured the ranch for the night. In the small parlor, he found Olivia writing something by lamplight. What's that? He asked softly, not wanting to wake Benjamin sleeping nearby. A letter for my son, she explained, looking up with eyes that had shed too many tears. In case something happens to me, I want him to know the truth. About how he came to be, about Jasper, about you. Clayton knelt beside her chair. Nothing will happen to you. You can't promise that, she said gently. But you can promise me that if it does, you'll raise Benjamin as your own. Tell him his mother loved him more than her own life." Clayton's throat tightened. "I promise, but it won't come to that." The following morning dawned clear and cool. Clayton had arranged everything with Judge Wilson, who would perform the ceremony at the courthouse in town. Mrs. Burnett, despite her initial reservations about Olivia, had baked a small cake and helped her prepare a dress suitable for a bride. "You look beautiful," the housekeeper said, her usual gruffness softening as she pinned Olivia's hair. "That man doesn't know how lucky he is." Olivia smiled tremulously at her reflection. The dress was simple cream colored with modest lace at the collar and cuffs, but it was the happiest she'd looked in months. Benjamin, freshly bathed and dressed in his best gown, cooed from his basket. The small wedding party Clayton, Olivia with Benjamin, Mrs. Burnett, Sheriff Thompson, and two of Clayton's ranch hands as witnesses made their way to town. The ceremony itself was brief but meaningful, with Clayton's steady voice promising to cherish and protect both Olivia and Benjamin for all his days. When Judge Wilson pronounced them husband and wife, Clayton kissed his bride with a tenderness that made Mrs. Burnett dab at her eyes. As they signed the marriage certificate, Clayton made a point of listing Benjamin as his son, legally claiming him. Their small celebration at the ranch afterward was interrupted by the arrival of a stranger. Clayton tensed as he recognized the description of Jasper read a tall man with dark hair and cold eyes, expensively dressed, but with a hardness to his features that belied his genteel appearance. "I'm looking for Clayton Forrester," the man announced, his gaze sweeping the gathered people before landing on Olivia, who had gone deathly pale. Clayton stepped forward. "I'm Forrester. This is private property and we're celebrating a family occasion." Jasper's eyes narrowed as he took in Olivia's dress and the small gathering. His gaze then fixed on Benjamin in Olivia's arms. "Celebrating the birth of my son, it appears," he said coldly. "Hello, Olivia. You've been difficult to find." Sheriff Thompson moved to stand beside Clayton. "Mr. Reed, I presume, what business brings you here?" "My wife and child," Jasper replied smoothly. "Olivia and I were married in Cincinnati last year. She disappeared with our savings when she was expecting our child. I've been searching for her since." "That's a lie," Olivia said, her voice surprisingly steady. "You never married me, though you promised to often enough. When I told you I was with child, you threatened both of us. You said no child of yours would be born to me." Jasper's charming facade slipped slightly. "You always did have an active imagination, my dear," Clayton's patience ended. "Mr. Reed, Olivia is my wife now. We were married today, witnessed by the sheriff here and Judge Wilson in town. Benjamin is legally my son. Whatever claims you think you have no longer apply." Jasper's expression darkened. "You can't simply claim another man's child." "I can when that man abandoned both mother and child," Clayton replied evenly. "Judge Wilson has the paperwork if you'd like to examine it, but I suggest you leave my property now." Jasper looked from Clayton to the sheriff, calculating his odds. Finally, he shrugged with false casualness. "I see I've interrupted a celebration. We'll discuss this another time when heads are cooler." "There's nothing to discuss," Clayton said firmly. "Good day, Mr. Reed." As Jasper mounted his horse, he called to Olivia. "This isn't over, my dear. A piece of paper doesn't change blood." After he rode away, Olivia began trembling so violently that Clayton gently took Benjamin from her arms. "He'll be back," she whispered. "He won't stop." Sheriff Thompson nodded grimly. "Likely not. Men like that don't take rejection well. I'll keep an eye on him while he's in town, but I can't arrest him for making claims, even false ones." The celebration subdued, Clayton asked the ranch hands to stay alert. That night, as they prepared for bed in their now shared bedroom, Olivia's fears spilled over. "What if he tries to take Benjamin by force? What if he hurts you? I couldn't bear it if something happened to either of you because of me." Clayton sat beside her on the bed, taking her hands in his. "Olivia, listen to me. You and Benjamin are my family now, legally and in my heart. I protect what's mine. Jasper Reed is just a man, a cowardly one at that, threatening a woman and child. He doesn't frighten me. He frightens me," Olivia admitted. "You didn't see him when he was angry." Clayton cupped her face gently. "You're not alone anymore. Whatever comes, we face it together." For 3 days, life continued warily on the ranch. Clayton doubled the watch at night, and no one rode out alone. On the fourth day, Mrs. Burnett returned from town with troubling news. "That Reed fellow's been talking all over town," she reported as she unpacked supplies. "Saying how his wife ran off with their child, how he just wants to see his son. Some folks are starting to wonder if he's telling the truth." Clayton wasn't surprised. "And what do people say about us, Mrs.?" Burnett snorted. "Mixed opinions. Some say you rescued a fallen woman and her illegitimate child out of Christian charity. Others think you were fooled by a pretty face. Martha Higgins is having a field day with the gossip." Olivia, who had entered carrying Benjamin, went still. "They think I'm lying." "Some do," Mrs. Burnett acknowledged, her usual bluntness tempered with unexpected kindness. "But others remember how you arrived exhausted, frightened half to death. That doesn't match Reed's story of a calculating thief." Later that afternoon, as Clayton checked the fence line on the north pasture, he spotted a rider approaching. He recognized Jasper Reed immediately and tensed, grateful he'd left Olivia safely at the ranch house with Mrs. Burnett and two hands nearby. "Forrester," Jasper called as he drew closer. "I think we got off on the wrong foot." Clayton didn't dismount, keeping his horse between them. "I don't see how. You made your intentions clear." Jasper smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. "I've been reflecting on the situation. Perhaps there's a compromise to be reached." "There's nothing to compromise on. Hear me out," Jasper insisted. "I understand you've grown attached to Olivia and the child. I'm willing to be reasonable. For a suitable compensation, I could be persuaded to relinquish any claims." The naked greed in Jasper's voice confirmed everything Olivia had said about him. "You're trying to sell your own son," Jasper shrugged. "Business is business. $5,000 and I'll disappear from your lives permanently. Everyone wins." Clayton's disgust must have shown on his face, because Jasper's expression hardened. "Don't be a fool, Forrester. You have no idea what Olivia is really like. She played me for a rube too at first, all innocence and virtue until she got what she wanted." "I know exactly who my wife is," Clayton said coldly. "And I know who you are now too. A man willing to sell his own flesh and blood isn't a man at all." Jasper's charm vanished. "You'll regret this. That's my son, and I'll have him one way or another." "You'll never touch that child," Clayton promised. "Now get off my land." As Jasper rode away, Clayton knew the threat was far from over. The man's naked greed had revealed something crucial. He didn't care about Benjamin as a son, only as leverage. That made him dangerous in a different way. When he returned to the ranch, Clayton found Olivia teaching one of the younger ranch hands to read on the porch, Benjamin sleeping nearby. The domestic scene struck him powerfully. This was what he was protecting. This newfound family that had brought unexpected joy into his life. That evening, after everyone had retired, Clayton shared his encounter with Olivia. "He tried to sell Benjamin," she asked, horrified. "For money," Clayton nodded grimly. $5,000, said he'd disappear permanently for that price." Olivia sank onto the bed, her face ashen. "I knew he was cruel, but this. He truly sees Benjamin as nothing but a possession to be traded." "It tells us something important," Clayton pointed out. "He doesn't want Benjamin out of any fatherly feeling. He wants him as a way to hurt you or to extract money. Or both," Olivia whispered. Clayton sat beside her, taking her hand. "I'm going to send a telegram to my friend in Denver tomorrow. He's a detective with connections to law enforcement across several territories. If Jasper Reed isn't his real name, or if he's wanted elsewhere, we'll find out." Olivia leaned against his shoulder, drawing strength from his solidity. "I never thought I'd find this," she admitted softly. "Safety, partnership. After what happened with Jasper, I believed that part of life was closed to me." Clayton turned, lifting her chin gently to meet his gaze. "When you came to Redemption Creek, people said your baby was born in shame. But from the moment I saw Benjamin, all I felt was pride. Pride that I could be the man to help raise him, to give him the start he deserves." Tears filled Olivia's eyes. "You've been his father in all the ways that truly matter." Their kiss was gentle at first, then deepened with the emotion of all they'd faced together and all that still lay ahead. The next morning, Clayton rode into town to send his telegram. While waiting for a response, He visited the land office to officially add Olivia's name to the ranch deed, another layer of protection for her and Benjamin should anything happen to him. As he exited the building, he encountered Martha Higgins and several other town women. "Mr. Forrester," Martha greeted him with false sweetness. "I heard the most distressing rumors about your situation. That poor Mr. Reed seems so genuinely heartbroken about his wife and child." Clayton fixed her with a level stare. "Mrs. Higgins, I don't typically discuss private matters, but I'll say this once. Jasper Reed is a liar and worse. He abandoned Olivia when she was with child, then threatened both their lives. Now he's attempting to extort money for dropping his false claims. If you choose to believe his version, that's your prerogative, but I'd be careful about repeating slander against my wife." Martha's mouth opened and closed several times before she managed. "Well, I never." "Perhaps you should," Clayton suggested mildly, tipping his hat as he stepped around her. Sheriff Thompson intercepted him as he headed toward the telegraph office. "Forrester, got a minute?" They stepped into the sheriff's office, where Thompson closed the door before speaking. "Reed's been drinking heavily at the saloon, making threats. Says he's going to take what's his. I warned him to keep the peace, but he's working himself into a lather." Clayton frowned. "I need to get back to the ranch. I'll ride out later to check on things," the sheriff promised. "In the meantime, I told the telegraph operator to send any reply to your message directly to your ranch. Figured you wouldn't want to wait in town." "I appreciate that," Clayton said, clasping the lawman's hand. As Clayton rode back, dark clouds gathered on the horizon, promising a summer storm. The air felt heavy, electric with tension that matched his own unease. When the ranch came into view, everything appeared normal, but Clayton's years in battle had taught him to trust his instincts. Something wasn't right. He approached cautiously, noting the unusual quiet. Where were the hands who should be working the corrals? Where was Mrs. Burnett, who typically hung laundry at this hour? The front door stood slightly ajar. Clayton dismounted silently, drawing his pistol. Each step toward the house amplified his dread. Inside, he found Mrs. Burnett on the parlor floor, a gash on her forehead but her chest still rising and falling steadily. One of the ranch hands sat slumped against the wall, nursing a bleeding arm. "Where are they?" Clayton demanded, his voice tight with fear. "Reed," the young hand gasped. "Came with 2 others. Took Mrs. Forrester and the baby. She fought like a wildcat, sir. One of Reed's men has a knife wound to prove it." "Which way?" Clayton asked, already moving toward the door, North Trail. Heading for the pass, said something about a train. Clayton's mind raced. The northern pass led to the junction where the Transcontinental Railroad stopped. If Jasper got Olivia and Benjamin on that train, they could disappear forever. As he saddled his fastest horse, 2 of his uninjured hands appeared from the barn where they'd been restrained. "We're coming with you, boss," the older one stated firmly. Clayton nodded. "Saddle up and bring rifles." The storm broke as they rode out, rain lashing their faces and lightning splitting the darkened sky. The northern trail would be treacherous in this weather, especially the narrow pass that cut through the rocky hills. But the same conditions that made pursuit difficult would slow Jasper's party as well, especially with a woman and infant. They rode hard, following tracks that the rain was rapidly washing away. As they approached the pass, Clayton signaled for silence. The narrow gorge created a natural bottleneck. Jasper and his men would have to slow down to navigate it safely, especially in the storm. "Circle around," Clayton instructed his men. "Block the exit. I'll follow their trail through." The pass twisted between high rock walls, forcing riders into single file. Clayton proceeded cautiously, straining to hear anything over the storm's fury. A flash of lightning illuminated the path ahead, revealing fresh hoofprints in the mud. Then he heard a baby's wail, quickly hushed, and a man's angry voice. "Shut that brat up or I will." Clayton rounded the bend to find Jasper and his 2 companions sheltering under an overhanging rock. Olivia sat rigidly on a horse. Benjamin clutched protectively against her chest, while one of Jasper's men held her reins. All 3 men were armed. Clayton drew his pistol but kept it low. "That's far enough, Reed." All 3 men whirled, weapons rising, but Clayton had positioned himself with the rock wall at his back, limiting their angles of fire. Jasper recovered quickly. a cold smile spreading across his face. "Forrester, I was wondering when you'd catch up. We're just taking a short family trip." "Let them go," Clayton said evenly. "This is between you and me now," Jasper laughed. "I don't think so. You see, I have what I want." He gestured to Olivia and Benjamin. "My wife ran away with my son and my money. I'm simply reclaiming what's mine." "I was never yours," Olivia said, her voice steady despite her fear. "And Benjamin will never be yours either." Jasper's face darkened. "Shut your mouth, woman. When we reach the junction, you'll sign those papers transferring your ranch to me, or you'll never see your precious brat again." So that was his game, not just revenge or extortion, but the ranch itself. Clayton had underestimated Jasper's greed. "The ranch isn't in my name alone," Clayton revealed. "It's in both our names now. Even if Olivia signed, you'd get nothing without my signature." Jasper's confidence faltered momentarily before his sneer returned. "Then I guess we'll have to persuade you both. Amazing what people will do when properly motivated." "You're not leaving this pass," Clayton stated calmly. "My men have the exit blocked." "Sheriff Thompson knows exactly who and what you are. This ends now, one way or another." Tension crackled between them, emphasized by lightning flashing overhead. Jasper's two companions looked increasingly nervous. "Reed, this ain't worth dying over," one muttered. "It's just a woman and a baby." "Shut up," Jasper snapped, his composure cracking. "He's bluffing." As if on cue, a rifle shot echoed through the pass, striking the rock wall harmlessly above their heads. Clayton's men making their presence known, in that moment of distraction, Olivia acted. She drove her heel hard into the ribs of the man holding her horse's reins. As he doubled over in pain, she yanked the reins free and spurred her horse directly toward Clayton. Jasper roared in rage, raising his pistol. Clayton fired first, his bullet catching Jasper in the shoulder and spinning him backward. One of Jasper's men returned fire while the other threw down his weapon in surrender. Clayton caught Olivia's horse as she reached him, shielding her and Benjamin with his body as bullets struck the rocks around them. Then his men appeared at the other end of the pass, rifles raised. "It's over," Clayton shouted. "Drop your weapons." The remaining gunman hesitated, then lowered his pistol. Jasper, clutching his bleeding shoulder, glared at them with naked hatred. "This isn't over," he snarled. "Yes, it is," Sheriff Thompson's voice came from behind Clayton as he rode into the pass with two deputies. "Jasper Reed, or should I say William Thornton? That telegram came back while you were playing kidnapper. You're wanted in 3 states for fraud, extortion, and murder." The fight drained from Jasper's face, replaced by calculating desperation. "I can explain, save it for the judge," Thompson interrupted, dismounting to secure the prisoners. As the sheriff's men took charge of Jasper and his companions, Clayton turned his attention to Olivia and Benjamin. The baby was miraculously sleeping through the commotion, exhausted from his ordeal. Olivia was soaked and trembling, but otherwise unharmed. "You came for us," she whispered, pressing her forehead to Clayton's as he held them both. "Always," he promised. "Let's go home." The ride back to the ranch was slow, the storm gradually giving way to clearing skies as they descended from the pass. By the time they arrived, Mrs. Burnett had recovered enough to fuss over Olivia and Benjamin, tutting about their wet clothes and the ordeal they'd endured. That night, after Benjamin was settled and the ranch secured, Clayton and Olivia sat before the fire, processing all that had happened. "It's truly over," Olivia said, wonder in her voice. "He can't hurt us anymore." Clayton nodded, drawing her closer. The sheriff said they found forged documents in Jasper's hotel room, false marriage certificates, property deeds. "He's been running this scheme across the territories, targeting vulnerable women with property or money." "And I nearly became another victim," Olivia murmured. "If I hadn't found the courage to run, if you hadn't taken us in." "But you did, and I did," Clayton reminded her, "and now we have this." He gestured to their home, to the life they were building. A fresh start. 2 weeks later, as summer turned toward autumn, Clayton finished the last touches on the small schoolhouse he'd built on the edge of the ranch property. It was nothing fancy, just one room with desks, a chalkboard, and shelves for books, but Olivia's face when he showed it to her made every splinter worthwhile. "What is this?" she asked, turning in wonder to survey the simple space. "Your school," Clayton said simply. "I spoke with some of the outlying families. They've been wanting education for their children but can't manage the daily trip to town. They'll pay a small fee and you can teach again." Tears filled Olivia's eyes. "Clayton Forrester, how did I get so fortunate?" he smiled, pulling her close. "I'm the fortunate one, Benjamin and I both." As if hearing his name, Benjamin cooed from the basket where Olivia had placed him. At 4 months old, he was growing stronger daily, his eyes so like his mother's, tracking everything with curious intelligence. Clayton lifted him gently. "What do you think, Benjamin? Will you share your mother with a few students?" The baby grabbed Clayton's finger, squeezing with surprising strength. "I'll take that as approval," Clayton laughed. Standing in the schoolhouse doorway, watching the sunset paint the prairie gold, Olivia felt a profound sense of completion. From the darkest days of her life had come this unexpected joy: a husband who cherished her, a son who thrived, and now the chance to return to the work she loved. "They said my baby was born in shame," she whispered, more to herself than to Clayton. "But you raised him in pride." Clayton turned to her, Benjamin cradled securely in his strong arms, and that's how he'll always know himself, as a child welcomed, wanted, and deeply loved. The first snows of winter blanketed Redemption Creek by the time the trial concluded. Jasper Reed, exposed as career criminal William Thornton, received a lengthy sentence that ensured he would never threaten Olivia or Benjamin again. The little schoolhouse flourished, with 12 students ranging from 5 to 15 attending daily. Olivia came alive in her teaching, while Clayton expanded the ranch, adding cattle to their horse breeding operation. Benjamin grew into a sturdy toddler, taking his first steps across the ranch house floor to the delight of his parents and the approving nod of Mrs. Burnett, who had become the child's devoted champion. One crisp December evening, as the family gathered by the fire, Olivia placed Benjamin's sleeping form in Clayton's arms before retrieving a small package from her desk. "What's this?" Clayton asked as she handed him the carefully wrapped parcel. "Open it," she urged, her eyes bright with excitement. Inside was a framed photograph, Clayton holding Benjamin on his first birthday, both of them laughing at something off camera. Beneath it was a second gift, a folded document. "Adoption papers," Olivia explained as Clayton examined them. "Judge Wilson prepared them. They make official what's already true in our hearts, that Benjamin is your son in every way that matters." Clayton traced the document with reverent fingers. "Are you certain? It means that no one can ever question your right to him," Olivia finished. "It means that legally, what we already know to be true is recognized. You are his father." Clayton's eyes glistened as he looked from the papers to his sleeping son. "I'd be honored to make it official." Olivia sat beside him, resting her head on his shoulder as they watched the fire's glow illuminate Benjamin's peaceful face. "I have one more piece of news," she said softly. "More surprises?" Clayton asked, turning to press a kiss to her forehead. Olivia took his hand and placed it gently over her stomach. "Benjamin will have a brother or sister by summer's end." Joy burst across Clayton's face like sunrise. "A baby, you're certain?" "Doc Miller confirmed it yesterday," she nodded, her own happiness mirroring his. Clayton gathered her close, careful not to disturb Benjamin. "I never dreamed of such happiness," he confessed. "When you stumbled into town that day, I only meant to help. I never imagined you would become my whole world." "That's the beauty of life's unexpected turns," Olivia murmured against his chest. "Sometimes what looks like an ending becomes the most beautiful beginning." Outside, snow continued to fall, blanketing their ranch in peaceful white. Inside, the fire crackled, casting its warm glow over the family that had been forged not by blood or convention, but by choice, courage, and love. In Redemption Creek, where once whispers of shame had followed Olivia and Benjamin, there now spread different stories of Clayton Forrester, who had taken in a desperate woman and her child, who had defended them against threats both local and deadly, who had claimed a son not of his blood with fierce and unwavering pride. And as seasons passed and their family grew, the story became legend in the territory: how love and decency had triumphed over prejudice and cruelty. how a baby born in what some called shame had instead become the cornerstone of a legacy built on pride.